Hello YouTube, I'm Mike in the Middle, and this is Breaking Social Identity. Today I'm going to discuss why I made this channel. We're going to talk about three major things. First, the problem is how I see it in the information you and I receive from major media outlets. Second, my intentions for this, why I'm creating this channel in the first place. And lastly, who I am and what I have to offer. Thanks for watching. Before I get into why I made this channel or who I am or what I'm going to do in the future, I'd like to talk about where we are. Where we are in how we receive information as a society and where we've come from and where we're going if we continue down this path. For the purpose of what I'm trying to do, it really comes down to three things. The structuralization of our society, the misinformation that we get, and the false equivalency that the media portrays. What you're seeing right now are three different graphs from 1994, 2004, and 2014 that show political polarization in the US. Now they're done from a Pew Research poll, and I think it really goes to speak to what's going on in America. How we've really become structured into these really hard-line different sides. You know, nowadays everyone is liberal and everyone is conservative, and you're all the way on one end of the spectrum or the other. If you don't believe me, just look at your own views on a subject. You know, a lot of people don't think for themselves anymore because you just cram-packed all of this information of what you're supposed to believe. Also from the Pew Research Center, you can see in this graph where individuals get their news based upon their political polarization. You can see that consistently conservative people, 47% of them get their news and their information about government and politics from Fox News, whereas consistently liberal people don't watch Fox News at all, hardly. This is a problem. You know, it used to be that everyone watched Walter Cronkite. Everyone, you know, saw the same news, got the same information, and it was general, it was right in the middle, and we formed our own opinions based off of that. But now we have individuals giving us news of exactly what we want to hear, and if we don't like it, we just change the channel. The last issue that I'd like to discuss is false equivalence. False equivalence is a logical fallacy which describes a situation where there is a logical and apparent equivalence, but when in fact there is none. This fallacy is categorized as a fallacy of inconsistency. A better explanation of this comes from a quote from Washington Post weekly columnist Katrina vanden Heuvel in an article she wrote entitled "The Distorting Reality of False Balance in the Media." It reads as such: "Unfortunately, too much of the media has become increasingly fixated on finding balance, even if it means presenting fiction on par with fact. If media outlets wanted to present an accurate account of the climate change debate, for instance, they would have to follow comedian John Oliver's lead and host a statistically representative face-off with 3 climate change deniers up against 97 scientists armed with proof. Instead, they contort themselves to find balance, and we're left with segments like, 'Is the climate change threat exaggerated?' presented on the always reliable Fox News, which promised to, quote, weigh the evidence on both sides of the divisive topic, end quote. It's no wonder that only 60% of Americans know that most scientists agree that global warming is occurring, and almost 30% aren't sure if there's any scientific consensus." Now that I've touched on a few factors from major media outlets that contribute towards our structuralization, political polarization, and this poisonous social identity, I'd like to discuss my intentions for the channel. What you're currently looking at are the 4 major goals that I have. Number 1, to destroy the political polarization, misinformation, and false equivalency portrayed in major media outlets designed to create an us versus them mentality for entertainment. Number 2, to present verifiable facts as well as an objective breakdown on current trending news and social media stories that have been overly sensationalized. Number 3, to call attention to important and often ignored news stories, such as bills on the floor of the U.S. Congress, reports from federal departments, or from the UN, and so forth. And number 4, there's a middle ground, and together we're going to find it. Lastly, I'd like to briefly talk a little bit about who I am. I'm just a 24-year-old kid that's ready to go back to school. But I think some of my life experiences have specifically tailored me to be pragmatic and see the middle line, to see the situation from the center. You know, I came from a broken home. Dad came over every other weekend to pick me up. Mom and stepdad are always working. When I finally got out into the world after bouncing from school to school and heck even religion to religion, you know, I didn't know what to do. I eventually got a construction job and moved around from state to state doing different jobs. Eventually that caught up with me too, and I needed to do something with my life, so I joined the Army. Just got out recently, did a few years. But all of those experiences really let me see just how different people are. It's because of these differences that compromise is so important. You know, you compromise with your spouse. You compromise with your coworkers. You compromise when you buy a burger from Burger King. You know, it's everywhere. It's a part of everything. But for some reason, these days, it doesn't seem like a part of our government. It doesn't seem like a part of the most important things that we as a nation and as a world face. You know, now we're put into these groups. You know, you're liberal or you're conservative, or, you know, you're pro-life or you're pro-choice. And it just kind of separates us, and it pushes us to opposite ends of the spectrums, where we're on the same side as crazy hardline feminists or crazy religious fundamentalists like Todd Atkins saying that, you know, pregnancy can't happen from rape. You know, there's a middle ground, a place where we can all be, and that's where I want us to go. That's where I want us to get to, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I want to present. I want to present arguments just like that, with statistics that are true, with research that is verified, and not just subjective claims. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Help me out. Help me get this message out. And let's go on this journey together.